Hi, this is Pat Moorhead with More Insights and Strategy, and I am here with Principal Analyst of FinTech, Melody Brew, and it is my favorite day of the week because I do a lot of potting, and FinTech Friday is my favorite. I'm sorry, Daniel. Here we are. Melody, how are you?
I'm doing great. And I think we're going to have Daniel on as a guest because, I watch your guys' podcast. I know he watches us sometimes. So, and I know he loves his fintech. So we got to have him on.
He loves his fintech and he loves his investing, and you know what, we should have him on. But when Daniel and I chase for the mic, I'm gonna have to do the all the logistics, because I may have to cut him off. I've got the mute button here, but anyways, no, it's been a wild week. And gosh, I was in downtown Austin yesterday on Congress, where it has been a ghost town, and there were so many people down there. We've got people in for the film festival. We've got people in for F1. It's
Yeah.
so like, I hate to say like we are back, but it's like, no, I think we're back.
Yeah. Yep. It's pretty
Yeah.
lively again. It's great to see, actually.
Yeah, so we've got a great show today for you. We're covering two topics and our acronym of the week, which I just love that. I learn as much on this show as I do on any other, so I really appreciate that. But we're going to talk about Facebook's Novi crypto wallet. We're going to be talking whether PayPal has been Pinterested or not, and then we're going to hit everybody's favorite part of the show, the acronym of the week, which is ETF, which I just can't wait to get in on some of those. But anyways, let's start off with Facebook's Novi crypto wallet. What is going on here? Like, Facebook, the most beleaguered brand out there right now, if you trust what the press writes, is actually thinking about getting into crypto.
Yes, they actually have launched a small pilot in the U.S. and in Guatemala, aimed at merchant services to accept payments.
Wait. Time out.
Yes,
The
you heard me right.
U.S. The U.S. and Guatemala. I,
Yes.
okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go. Yeah.
I mean, we can go into that another time, but basically, they do actually have a lot of payment remittances, so there is some reasoning behind that. But really, what we need to talk about here is why is PayPal doing this, and why now?
Right.
So, I think if it's aimed at merchant services to accept payments. So my take on this, and you can see in the protocol article that Tomio Jerome wrote, if I'm a customer, there are better ways to transfer crypto or money than Facebook. Coinbase is one of them, and Coinbase is actually their custodian. If I'm a merchant, I already have so many other choices. So it's really like, on top of what you said, all of the trust issues and everything, they're launching this now. They're launching it without so you see in the article there, they're launching it without its most controversial part, which is their own stablecoin. They had announced, and they were working on a stablecoin that they called Diem, or it's a part of a project called Diem. But they're launching without Diem, and instead they're launching with Paxos USDP, which is a stablecoin, which I'm sure you know is a digital currency backed by real world assets. So it has, built in to give the general mechanics and the benefits of crypto, but without the price volatility. Still, Facebook is not, really trusted at the moment. And I think that, also immediately a bunch of senators sent Facebook a letter saying that they can't be trusted with payments as a service or a currency. And Facebook's response was basically, we look forward to responding.
Yeah.
And
I got to tell you, it is interesting. I just think, it's a big trust issue. There is absolutely nothing. I mean, at least I personally see nothing to do with maybe what they've done on the privacy side with crypto, but maybe I'm just not smart enough to see the connection or the potential challenge. And by the way, while I'm at it, I know this is like your show, but I got to get this out there. I mean, I do think there should be a warning label for kids, but while we're at it, our biggest issue is obesity in this country among kids, and maybe there should be a warning label kids on every fast food or soft drink. I don't see where this ends. Okay, I'll stop my rant. It's your show.
Yeah, I mean, there should be a warning label on Facebook, I guess. And there is now, right? Like with everything that's happening with the whistleblower and with even just Facebook's own appointed oversight board issues.
Yeah.
They're just coming against so many issues right now, and trust is the biggest issue.
Yeah.
And all of these leaked documents, all of even just the documents that we're finding, that their own reports, people inside the company. We're not even talking about people who have left the company. We're talking about people inside the company saying, we know we're doing this and we're doing it really badly, and this is the impact it's having on people. So, it's kind of how you do one thing is how you're going to do everything.
Okay. I get that. I do get that. So I think I think it's something we should consider.
Yeah. So I think it's it's interesting timing. So, and then they also just sort of hinted at this new rebrand. So, when a company's in trouble, what do? They go to rebrand. So are they all of a sudden going to be the metaverse? Who knows? I don't know what's happening here. So it's actually, I think it's so funny that Daily Brew, do you read that newsletter? It's fantastic. It's
every once in a while. Sorry about the camera action here. Hopefully nobody's getting sick. Nobody sue me for my camera work here, but yeah.
That's good. A joke. It's Daily Brew, like coffee, not Daily Brew as in my last name. But sometimes I do tell my friends the Daily Brew. So, but Daily Brew did a TikTok about this rebrand that was just hysterical, where Zuckerberg goes back to Harvard and like tries to be a cool guy to find out why people aren't using Facebook. And somebody says, we don't actually not use your app because of mistrust or some sort of scandal. We don't use it because it's not cool.
Right.
So anyway, we'll watch that and see what's happening.
No, that's so funny. It reminds me of, so Catherine is my middle, and she, I think she put it out on Twitter that when Facebook was buying Pinterest, she said, "Oh, OMG." No, not Pinterest. Sorry, Instagram. Facebook buying Instagram. She said, OMG. It's going to get ruined. That's for old people. Anyways, ABC News caught it and actually interviewed her. And I think she was
that's hysterical.
13, maybe. Right. And Facebook is clearly hedging their bets, right? I mean, they have Facebook, they have Instagram, they have WhatsApp, and I'm sure and they're kind of aping all the features that come with the newer social sites. So we will see. But hey, let's move to
and now this metaverse stuff. So
no, I know now. Maybe we'll have to have Anshul on, who, he's got some really interesting ideas and thoughts on the whole metaverse thing, but we'll have to see. I mean, listen, we have Alphabet as a holding company for, Google and a holding company for, their Waymo. Maybe this is what I think this is going to be, but the timing is suspect, right? And I think Facebook may be the investment. It's funny. It's not poison. I mean, look at the value and look what happens. And I think if anything, Facebook has shown that regardless of what they say or do, even if it's exactly the opposite of what they say, even on Capitol Hill, they're going to be okay. They might get their hands slapped. They might get $100 million fine. But the belief is that they're going to be fine.
Yep, kind of like Robin Hood.
Exactly.
It keeps happening.
Yeah. So, hey, let's move to the next topic, and that is PayPal getting Pinterested. I really want to know more about this. What's going on here?
Yeah. So the companies are in talks for PayPal to acquire Pinterest. Somewhere the valuation, there's been talks of anywhere between like 39 and 45 billion valuation. So I think this is really interesting because I think this points back to what we've talked about many times on this podcast, which is PayPal's super app aspirations.
Yeah.
Pinterest is great for product discovery. So I think in terms of an ad platform, anything that you could do or that you want to build on a super app, in product discovery, you're going to find all of the things that you want for travel, a restaurant you want to go to, clothing that you want, anything that you could build into a super app, you can discover on a Pinterest-like mechanism, right? So I think there's kind of that product discovery and commerce play. Also, PayPal just announced their partnership with Adobe Commerce. So definitely getting deeper into commerce after their kind of separation from eBay. And then there's also the ad platform part of it for revenue. So during the pandemic, people are shopping more, they're using Pinterest to shop, and so advertisers are going to social media platforms to advertise. So there's all of the growth in the advertising revenue there too. And it's an entry into social media for PayPal. So you're taking a big company and putting all of these users. Pinterest has 450 million active users. Those users open up the app on an average of 30 plus times a month. So that means once a day, sometimes more than once a day. So if you're talking about an average, there are some real power users on Pinterest.
Right.
There's the person who maybe goes on to plan a wedding, but there's also somebody who uses it to organize their life. And so in terms of a super app, that's a good place to capture those people and offer them all kinds of things. So that's where I think that they're going with this. But I also think, there's definitely the commerce play. If this happens, it's definitely going to set a record in a number of things. It'll be the biggest purchase of, oh, sorry about that. I forgot to turn my phone off.
All good. We're live here, and we just let stuff roll. I mean, we're not, I mean, forget the editors. I mean, that's like year 2000 stuff.
Exactly. I never have my ringer on, but I'm flying tomorrow, and I did one of those things where you put yourself in line for the airline to call you back.
Wait, you're flying out when the entire world is flying in to Austin.
Yes, get out of Austin
here.
Yeah.
So yeah. By the way, your super app theme continues, and by the way, Americans don't fully understand this, but in China, WeChat, I mean, it's the thing. I mean, there's human bots, there's robotic bots. Okay, don't call me on that. But a lot of commerce that goes on in these apps, and that connection. I really think you've got a lot of companies trying to bring that magic from China to the Western world here in Western Europe and the U.S. And gosh, but I do want to be honest with you and just share something very personal. I don't use Pinterest. My stepmom uses Pinterest. Paula uses Pinterest for really good ideas, but I just never got sucked into that app. But I will say they have a very differentiating following, and this whole idea of social commerce is huge, even though it hasn't taken off necessarily in the U.S. aside from advertising, right? I don't know if it's a cultural thing that we prefer to do our research and then make the transaction somewhere else, or maybe it's the distrust of the connection of the two. I'll leave that insight up to you.
Yeah, I think you were starting to see some adoption of it, with Shop and Shopify and all of these things being integrated into apps. And especially, since people were stuck at home and the e-commerce boom was happening.
Yeah,
I think we'll start to see it happening more, especially with these kinds of things. And, like I said, with PayPal's integration with Adobe Commerce, that just makes it easier for merchants to sell products without having a third-party payment provider. So people actually don't have to go, or the merchants don't have to integrate something else. So it's all just kind of, it's all about convenience and making things easier to shop for, easier to buy, easier for the merchant to process. But anyway, this whole deal with them, it is a really big deal. It will be the biggest purchase of a social media company since Microsoft purchased LinkedIn. It will also make 2021 a record M&A deal, M&A deal year.
Yeah.
And from what we're seeing in M&A right now, it's all over the place with financial services companies buying media companies, credit card companies buying NFTs. Like nobody's staying in their lane. It's a wild west. So I think it's not going to slow down. Whether this deal goes through or not, I think we're going to see a record year.
Listen, with free money and if interest rates stay the same, you're going to continue to see that. And the other part is that these massive run-ups in valuations have created equity that I think a lot of companies want to cash in on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, okay, let's do this now for growth.
Yep.
So great analysis. Let's go into my favorite part of FinTech Friday, which is my favorite podcast. Sorry, Daniel. The acronym of the week, ETF. Gosh, how do we get in on ETFs? How do I sell my favorite picture and license it to a million people for $1 each? How do I do this?
You're confusing ETF with NFT.
Oh my gosh, this is why you're in charge here. Okay.
And, I think we need to do a deeper dive on NFTs because we did talk about it in the acronym of the week once, but now it's gone to a different level. And now there's this whole creator economy. So let's get back to that after this, maybe on the next podcast. But
yes, and this is why you're principal analyst of FinTech and Pat Moorhead is not. So please educate us on ETFs.
ETF is exchange traded fund. So an exchange traded fund, you're probably familiar with that when you're not thinking it's an NFT. Essentially, it's a collection of security, or some people consider it like a basket of securities tied to the value of assets like stocks, bonds, commodities. Usually it's in a theme like surrounding the S&P 500 or a sector such as healthcare, commodities, gold, oil, whatever it is. So this week, the first Bitcoin ETF was announced and actually rang the bell on the stock market. So ProShares Bitcoin Strategy is the first ETF that is Bitcoin based. It's a little bit different. So it's a big win, obviously, for the Bitcoin enthusiasts, right. But it is a little bit different than a typical ETF because it's actually not Bitcoin that's underlying in the portfolio. It is Bitcoin futures contracts, not actually Bitcoin. So, when you're investing in this ETF, you're not investing in Bitcoin. You're basically placing your bets on the future price of Bitcoin. So this is great, for the Bitcoin enthusiasts, this is really great because it shows that there's some sort of, mainstream cryptocurrency being accepted by the SEC. It also triggered a huge spike in Bitcoin, in the price of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was, I think, around 66,000 earlier this week. I don't know what it is today. I actually should know that, but and so anyone with a brokerage account can basically now invest into an ETF, but can invest into futures of Bitcoin. It's with let's go back to our disclaimer. This is not investment advice.
Yeah, let me do this. Gosh. Yeah. So just disclaimer here. The FinTech Friday podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Do not take this as investment advice. Please seek a professional. There we go. Okay.
There we go. Okay. So before we get into this part, I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Because, I think this is with Robinhood and all of these investment apps coming out, the retail investor has gotten some power and some ability to get into markets that they haven't been able to before. This is sort of similar. Anyone with a brokerage account can invest in an ETF, but futures trading is a different beast than playing with, some little stocks here and there on an app. Futures trading is really complex and it's usually left to the big guys for a reason. So I think, yes, it's a great thing for the SEC to be signaling that there might be some, future of additional financial instruments with using Bitcoin, and that they're kind of starting to soften up to that. But it's a baby step that I think should be taken, with some caution for the regular retail investor.
You want to get on Bitcoin? Get an ETF, baby. Here we go. ProShares Bitcoin strategy. I know I'm not investing of it because I obviously don't know the difference between an ETF and an NFT. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So I'm
It's been
definitely
a
not
long
going to.
week, Pat. It's good. It's okay.
I mean, literally 2 analyst events, 3 device events. I think, well, 3 video. This is my 4th video of the week. And I think I'm done for the week. And then I'm going to just spend the rest of the, I'm going to spend today at F1, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, but hey, fintech does not sleep. Okay. There is so much stuff that's going to be new. What's coming up for you in the next few weeks?
So there's so much happening. There's so much happening right now. Just like trying to, kind of prioritize things is crazy. But next week is kind of the big fintech conference, Money 2020. It's in Vegas and it is live this year, which is exciting for everybody. I'm actually not attending. I am.
Wah, wah.
I know it's kind of a bummer, but I have a really good reason why. My parents have been stuck in the UK for the last 18 months. And finally, we're able to get out. They were stuck there because of COVID. Finally, able to get out. So I am taking my children to go see them.
So nice.
So,
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, we're all so happy to be able to see them. So, but I do have some briefings set up, and I actually have some pre-briefings, some briefings, and I expect some big announcements coming out of that. I think also, so yesterday, speaking of super apps and all of that, payment issues or it's payment data actually. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau issued a probe into big tech and in regards to payments and super app data. And they're expecting responses. Actually, I'm not clear when they're expecting responses. So we can talk about that next time, because this is, again, with all this data and everything that Facebook has shown us with what they're doing with data, I think it's a nice little warning sign to, watch it. If you're going to be, when you're talking about people's money and you're talking about people's data, it has to be protected. So there's that. And then my first in a series of AI articles will be coming out any minute now. The first one is on time and productivity, obviously in financial services. And the next is going to be more on security and cloud. So in financial services, obviously. So yeah, so much going on. There's always so much going on.
I love fintech. It seems to be one of the quickest evolving things. The regulation versus forward momentum. It reminds me a little bit of whack-a-mole game.
Yeah.
It is amazing how regulations come in and like something squeezes out. We find some new way of doing something. But I mean, I guess the alternative is kind of like China, where okay, we're going to ban Bitcoin immediately.
Right.
Interesting enough, I've heard a lot of people talk about the privacy thing, which you've probably seen that China is going to mandate that there is a don't ever use machine learning on me mode that everybody has to abide by. Gosh, by the way, I'm thinking through that, and I'm wondering, God, content's bad enough that gets served up to me, plus the ads. Imagine if it has no intelligence against it. I'm just going to get like run-a-site ads that are probably targeted to my zip code, based on where I'm coming in from, which really, the maximum they can figure out is that, I have AT&T broadband and I'm in it, maybe a certain zip code, but that's pretty much about it.
That's actually one of the things I looked over quickly, the CFPB, the issue the probe that they issued. And one of the things that they mentioned was going into things like, geospatial data and things like that, that we have to be careful about getting too into, how you target. Obviously, we want things that are targeted to us,
Right.
but we also want our privacy.
Yeah, and we don't want to be manipulated
Right.
either. And there's this kind of like thin line between kind of creepy and useful, but we'll get
Yes.
there. We keep iterating to get there. I just, in a
Yeah.
way, wish there wasn't so much controversy about it. But when you tell Congress one thing and maybe it ends up being something different, there are consequences for all of that.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah,
And, I think when you look at the fact that 90% of people in the US are now using fintech products, there's going to be a bigger focus on it.
right,
And the fastest growing segment of that 90% are actually boomers. So I think that, right, I know. Yeah, the fastest growing segment. It's not the biggest segment, but it's the segment that is growing the fastest.
got it.
Probably somewhat fueled from being stuck at home from the pandemic. But when you look at a segment like that, I think that the protections have to be even more so because they're not quite as digital savvy as, say, like our daughters are going to be,
Right,
because they've grown up on this. They know not to give their social security number if they whatever, all these things. They can't be fooled, right?
right, right.
So I think that, we've talked about this before. It would be so great if we could have some sort of self-regulation, and there are bodies that are trying to do this in some ways. And, we talked about that with the
Right.
cloud and vertical clouds. And there are some that are doing that in financial services, particularly with open banking. There's not a standard that everybody's agreed upon yet. And that's because we just have this just massive size and breadth of financial services and financial institutions to deal with. And tech is really good at creating, or big tech is really good at creating technology and not great at following rules.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a great place to end. We've gone. It's funny. I don't know what long or short or just right is, but all I know is if it's interesting, our audience will keep tuning in. And I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. And if it's your first time, thank you for coming in. And let us know what you think. Probably the easiest way is to just track us down on Twitter and let us know what you think. We like compliments too, but we also want to make this show for you. So, Mel, have a great time with your parents. I'm really
Thank
happy
you.
for you. I'm looking forward to an team Oracle win at F1, and I'm super
Awesome.
excited about that. And
That's
I'm going
going
to
to
be
be
at
great.
the Splunk Paddock Club tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to it. I love F1 racing. So with that, thank